There were 5 Brett Hall columns to be restored on the east and west portico. The intent was to restore the columns where we would both open up the joints as well as glue anything that has broken. The intent was not to open joints that were in sound condition. The challenge with this is you're dealing with the stave core with this locking system where you can have contact on the back side but not the front side. And depending on how the column has warped or become oblong, there are joints that can open up over time. What we ended up doing was stripping each column and filling some of the work with Avatron epoxy, and all the other joints that were open we were filling with Titebond 3, strapping, and then leaving overnight, where then the straps were removed and the column was then sanded, primed, and finish coated. All 5 columns had varying degrees of deterioration, and there were many parts to be remade.
So this is the north side where we had 3 columns that were done. We see the water is really pouring off this right side here, and we've also seen significant weight shift on this corner between the failure of the concrete work here on the bottom.
On the left is the photo from the specifications, and on the right is the photograph from August 23rd.
To the fact that this column, actually there's a shear break because the weight distribution is off on this column. We have this crack that formed. This was tight. You can see that it was once a closed joint, but we have the outside of the column falling a little bit more than the inside. And we also have this column reading in the 20 to 30% range for this column. We've got this one next to it that's at about the 16 or so, which is about right, 13 to 16. This one next to it, about 12. We do have some jumps here to closer to 15, but this one here is significantly wetter. To demonstrate the amount of water coming down, you can see the staining, which is directly leading to the expansion of a lot of the wood. This is rotted. You can see the water coming through the soffit here. Then just some breaks in the glue seams. You can see that this moisture reading is closer to the 14% or so, which is about right, depending on where we test it. So we're not seeing as much catastrophic failure in the joints. We are seeing these tops opening up. It's mainly because these columns have grown from the shop, and those joints cannot be closed up top.
The capital molding is inside a rabbet, and these were all the original cuts. We did not make them any smaller, so the expansion of the column pushed out the joints.
So we have the southeast columns where we have this second one right here, which is doing really well. We have a little bit of a seam that's cracked, but we're seeing sort of less. This one is cracked more, but and we're seeing a little bit of weight distribution difference between here and here. I can see a little bit extra compression here, so I would say that maybe there's a little bit of movement on there that's kind of occurring. But we tried clamping this one shut, and we were noticing that the back side of the staves were actually hitting, so we couldn't get that one to close. This one on the corner here, we were able to get some glue in a couple spots, but you know, we can't get it in all of them. It's mostly on the back side that we have, but things like this are just sort of natural cracks that are occurring inside the wood itself. But this one looks like a better weight distribution, and this is some of the cracks that we were dealing with in some of the moldings when we started. So that's that, and we can just walk up to see the condition these guys are in. Again, this second one is looking great. We do have a little bit just natural cracking, sort of right here. But that one looks like it's doing really well. This is one of the ones we didn't touch. And this is a joint that we just did here. It's not to open up on this backside.
So as we said, we completed the project according to the specifications, where only the open joints were to be repaired. And what we observed on site was the joints that were not glued by us were the ones that opened up. So they are obviously vulnerable to different expansion and contraction because of the fact that it was using a hide glue. So the reality is that these columns will expand and contract. There will be vertical seams, and there will be some breaks in some of the moldings just by the nature of the columns themselves. So filling them with a caulk or a hard filler will cause that filler to pop out during the times of constriction.